Hope you guys are hungry for some knife content, because today we're going to talk about both this pouch and the Knafs lander. So this company was started by Ben Banters, and I love the way they name things. So this thing right here, this pouch, is called the Burrito Grande, and they even have clever names for different sections of this wax canvas organizer. And it's a really, really well built one. Really, really nice. The stitching is extra strong all the way across, double stitched on the seams, and the materials are the kind of materials that you can really go to town on. This wax canvas is one of my favorites, actually. Look at all this, the thickness of the stitching here. They want this thing to last for a really long time. Now when you first open this, you're going to get your section for what they're calling the toppings, which is on the top of this. And with the Burrito Grande, I mean, come on, this is just really clever ideas from Knafs, and I love the little comedic plays that they make. And I also have to say I love the little patches that they have, like the Space Kitty here. And he is well known for making all kinds of different Space Kitty scales. If you've never gotten a chance to see them on his website, don't worry, all links will be down in the description. So if we continue in, it is a one direction organizer with a total of 12 slots at the first two sections. And then down here, there's a section that's blocked off with a pair of magnets that are actually stitched into the various different materials. So the knives are not particularly important. What is important is what we have down here. So I really like that they have given us some sections that are a little bit wider, because if I had a tin with small components like screws, I could put that in this and I would have no problems. There's also some elastic sections that will let me carry smaller things, smaller tools, to maintain whatever I have in this tool roll. Now this is designed for knives, but that does not mean you couldn't be used for many other things. In fact, I probably will end up using it for Swiss Army knives, multi-tools, pens, and many, many others. I like these organizers. I really am a big fan. And there's something here that I think more brands need to incorporate, and that's especially these magnets. We're going to show you in a little bit why those magnets are so incredibly useful. But I don't want to delay anymore. It's time to get to the main event. This is the Knafs lander. Now, a lot of people have already reviewed it, but they have just released this. This is the lander in 14C, 28N, and green micarta. Fantastic knife. Honestly, this was something I would hope they would eventually do, which is to make it in probably my favorite budget steel ever, and they did exactly that. As you can see, the action is fantastic. Drop shut once you release the liner lock, which has pretty good access, and it drops right in there. Now, this is a nice small knife. It's not going to be as small as something like the Baby Banter, which I'm borrowing from my wife. No one get on me about that. I'm borrowing it, okay? I'm giving it back. And it's actually smaller than something like the K-Bar Dozier. Now, I am guilty of comparing these two knives specifically. I think I was in fact quoted in the video with Ben and Zach where they talked about the comparisons between the two. And just like them, now that I have it, I don't think they're as close as I originally suspected. But in truth, being that the Dozier is such a generic knife, that's not a surprise that we would be familiar with all the different components here. They're not trying to go out of the ordinary with this Knafs lander. Just a really good, full functioning knife for pretty much anything that you need day to day. It's small and honestly not very intimidating. I think one thing that he's mastered is just the sweep of the back of the blade, as well as with the blade itself. It just doesn't feel nearly as aggressive as some other knives. So you pull this out and I don't think it'll actually make anyone feel uncomfortable. You can slow roll it with no problem. Now, there would be not much to say about it, but what is really special about this knife is that the scales are designed to come off and let you change them out for a whole bunch of different types of scales. So here's a couple examples that I got from Chroma scales. So I think they're calling this the lava flow, and the one I'm going to put on right here, which is this breadbasket kind of weaved leather look. So I don't know what this is going to look like, as I've never tried it. I did try these, but the fact that you can 3D print your own scales with designs that he provides, and also be able to get these from separate manufacturers that make them in different materials, gives the personalization factor to this knife. I think this is a great knife for that specific thing. So everyone's knife is going to be different. That makes it a conversation piece, and I think that is a big win for Ben. Now let's take this thing apart real quick, and you're going to need a T6 Torx. You're going to start by removing the screws on the clip cover as well as the clip itself. Now notice I'm sticking these screws to the magnets, and I'm going to keep them in two separate areas. Actually, you know what? For ease, so you can see it, let me go ahead and leave these screws up here, and I'll put the other screws on the other side. So you put this whole thing out like so, and I take this whole thing and just drop it right there. And I know I'm not going to lose my screws. You know, no one likes to have screws loose. Anyway, so the big deal with this is that you can take it out really easily, and it's a very, very simple process. There are a bit of a difference between the two different screws. Now, thankfully, he does include a spare set in here as well. So I actually put it in this bag, but there's an entire spare set of body screws that comes with the knife. That's a nice touch, and with them being T6, it's heavily appreciated that they have that. So if I take these off, like so, which is really fast and easy to do, we still have a full functioning knife with the liner lock and everything. So yeah, it still works exactly like a normal knife, just a little bit thinner. But you can see how this works. The pivot is inside, so you don't have to go any further. You don't have to do any more than this to get them ready for the next set. So we're going to take these out and try these. And I'm not going to do the lanyard bead, but Chroma Scales actually sends a matching bead with all their different scales, including the ones you saw with the lava flow. Let's go ahead and get this all situated here. So you do the same thing again. Body screws first. Sorry for the planes overhead. You know what? Let's go ahead and zoom in here so you can see what we're talking about. There we go. Flip it over to the other side. Just like so. I actually really like these scales. You know, I would like them a little bit darker than the material, but actually it's very fitting for what they were going for, which is like a basket weave kind of thing. Last one. There we go. Now we need it on this side, right? Yep. I always get a little bit mixed up with it. Let's pull these out. Now getting this repositioned is a little bit finicky, but if you, as long as you have one body screw that's still set in the hole, it's pretty easy. Pretty easy to do. Now this is the fourth time I've messed with this already. No issues with the screws. They've clearly been heat treated properly, because I would have stripped a T6 by now, most likely, if they were not good screws. And then we have the cover plate right there. And I gotta say, these Chroma Scales, the tolerances are really good. Everything fit perfectly right off the bat. Now that I'm trying the second one, I can now confirm 2 for 2. Nicely done. And so with that, we have swapped the scales, and this is something I think anybody can do. Ooh, I like that. I like that. Cool texture, and what a cool look. No, so this is, I think, something that anybody can get behind. Customization. That is something that that is somewhat lacking in the knife world, but I think is on the uprise. So this might be the beginning, but I hope that Ben continues to invent more knives that have this sort of universal handle scale, maybe even a slightly larger variety, like maybe like, I don't know, 3.3 or 3.45 inch blade would be great. And I would like that one as well. Now, this fits a very nice size right above the Baby Banter. So if you look, if I put tip to tip, there's quite a bit more blade length, but I'm sorry, cutting edge, but it's only probably about a ½ inch longer. So you're using up a lot of space with the finger choil on the Baby Banter, but you have about the same handle length between these two. So this is kind of an interesting step up. And then from here you have the 3-inch Banter, and then there's the Banter XL at an even bigger mark. But those are all made by We Knives and Civivi. This thing is all Ben, and honestly, I'm super thankful to have it. It's definitely going to be something that'll stay in my collection. And if you're looking for something fun to play around with, to tinker with, this might be the knife for you. Anyway, that's pretty much it for today. The Knafs Lander in 14C 28N, and of course, green micarta scales. Definitely something to consider if you haven't already picked one up. Fantastic little knife. Have a good one, guys. Talk to you soon.